Welcome to the Mystery and History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. Advertisements for buying, selling, and renting enslaved people were common in American newspapers, printed alongside livestock and tools. The descriptions detailed physical characteristics, skills, and conditions as if people were merchandise. Records from the time show transactions in public squares, where families could be separated in broad daylight. Today, these documents survive in historical archives, serving as undeniable records of what was considered normal and legal for centuries. Walter Freeman was an American neurologist who popularized transorbital lobotomy, a controversial neurosurgical procedure of the 1940s and 1950s. Using an instrument to access the brain through the eye socket, he sought to treat severe mental conditions such as schizophrenia and depression. The technique caused permanent damage, severe effects, and great risk to patients. Criticized by medicine, its harshness led to declining use as psychiatric drugs advanced in the 1960s. The Village Congolais exhibit at the 1958 Brussels World's Fair revealed the colonial relationship between Belgium and Congo before independence. Organized as a cultural display, it presented Congolese traditions through a European gaze, reinforcing colonial stereotypes. The event marked an era of anti-colonial mobilization. In 1960, Congo gained independence, ending Belgian rule and beginning social and political transformations in Africa. The photograph reveals a multicultural group in a formal assembly, probably in the United States during the 20th century, a context shaped by deep racial tensions and struggles for civil rights. The presence of African American and white individuals interacting in harmony suggests a significant meeting for promoting equality and social integration during the era of segregation, when movements such as the Civil Rights Movement were gaining strength to confront existing legal and social discrimination. The young workers of the United States Radium Corporation became known as the Radium Girls after being exposed to luminescent radium paint while painting watch dials. Instructed to shape their brushes with their lips, they developed serious problems such as bone necrosis, jaw tumors, and aplastic anemia, while the company hid the risks. The 1927 lawsuit marked the struggle for labor rights and occupational safety regulation. During the Cold War, the United States military conducted experiments in enclosed environments to test chemical agents and their effects on soldiers, often without full consent. Carried out in secret facilities, these tests sought to improve strategies in response to the Soviet threat. Participants suffered physical and psychological consequences, creating ethical controversies that led to official apologies and reforms in military protocols. The American government encouraged journalists, politicians, soldiers, and tourists to witness nuclear tests in the Nevada desert during the Cold War, offering tourism packages from Las Vegas. These demonstrations were watched without proper protection beyond sunglasses, while soldiers observed radiation effects from nearby areas, resulting in serious health problems decades later during a period of intense nuclear tension. After World War II, American cities faced the challenge of urban pest control to fight diseases such as malaria and dengue. Aerial spraying or chemical spraying by trucks in residential neighborhoods became common as a way to protect public health. However, concerns emerged about the effects of exposure, especially for children playing in the streets, creating debates about health and environmental safety that influenced future policies. In the United States during the 1950s and 1960s, amphetamines were widely prescribed to women as diet pills for weight loss and increased energy, becoming part of daily medical and social routines. Advertised in women's magazines with cheerful images, these drugs caused dependence that was treated as a habit rather than addiction, reflecting a social context that hid the reality of widespread domestic use, known as mother's little helper. Household items made with uranium oxide, popular in the early 20th century, glowed fluorescent green under ultraviolet light and were symbols of sophistication on European and American tables. The material, whose emissions were poorly understood at the time, was part of dinnerware used in family meals, revealing the lack of awareness of the risks during that period. Production stopped during World War II, when uranium became a strategic resource under military control. During the Vietnam War, between 1961 and 1971, the United States used more than 19.8 million gallons of herbicides, including Agent Orange, to eliminate vegetation that sheltered opposing forces. This chemical contained dioxin, a high-risk substance that harmed the health of about 4.8 million Vietnamese people and caused problems in later generations. Companies such as Monsanto and Dow Chemical knew the risks, but withheld information from the American government, worsening the environmental and human impact. During World War II, the American Army conducted mustard gas tests on racially segregated soldiers based on prejudiced assumptions about the resistance of certain ethnic groups to the chemical agent. The experiments, carried out in outdoor military environments, applied the substance to the skin without proper consent, exposing service members to serious risk. This practice revealed institutionalized racism and generated debates about ethics and human rights. The people of Rongelap suffered severely from the radioactive fallout of Castle Bravo, the largest United States nuclear test at Bikini Atoll on March 1, 1954, whose particles contaminated land and populations. This episode caused health problems, forced displacement, and lasting impact in the Marshall Islands, exposing the dangers of nuclear weapons and provoking international debates about the rights of indigenous populations exposed to military testing. The official tour route of the Nevada Atomic Test Site, promoted by the United States Atomic Energy Commission, marked the Cold War by exposing civilians to atomic development. In the 1950s and 1960s, tourists watched nuclear demonstrations amid geopolitical tension, reflecting the paradox between national security and environmental risks. These tours popularized nuclear energy and reinforced the culture of strategic fear in American society. The use of asbestos in thermal insulation, paints, and even toys in American schools for decades exposed millions of children to inhaling its fibers, which are highly harmful and associated with serious diseases such as mesothelioma and lung cancer. Although internal industry studies warned about the risks as early as the 1930s, this information was hidden, creating a lasting public health impact. Safely removing asbestos from educational environments remains a challenge today. For centuries, Roma groups and European traveling performers used trained brown bears for public entertainment, forcing them to dance through methods now recognized as cruel, involving chains and painful practices. This exploitation was seen as tradition and celebrated in postcards from the 19th and early 20th centuries. In the 1990s and 2000s, under pressure from animal protection movements, these practices were banned in Europe, marking a cultural change in the relationship with performing animals. Standard Oil introduced tetraethyl lead into gasoline as an additive, causing severe poisoning among its workers, who suffered mental changes and early deaths. Despite the evidence, company executives held press events presenting the product as safe, while ignoring its impacts. This additive remained legal for decades, contaminating the air globally and harming the neurological development of countless generations, only being banned in the United States in 1996. Thomas Midgley Jr., an American chemical engineer, gained notoriety in the 1920s by demonstrating the supposed safety of tetraethyl lead, an additive used in gasoline to increase octane levels. By washing his hands with gasoline containing this toxic compound, he tried to convince the public that there was no risk. However, exposure caused severe poisoning and deaths among factory workers, revealing the dangers of a substance that would affect public health for decades. Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup was a popular remedy used in the early 20th century to relieve discomfort in babies, especially colic and restlessness. However, it became controversial because of the lack of regulation and oversight of its ingredients. It contained opium derivatives, which caused dependence and serious reactions in children. These facts led to stricter laws in the United States, influencing modern regulation and the safety of products intended for children. American and European industries dumped chemical waste into rivers without treatment, supported by laws that encouraged pollution as an economic activity. The Cuyahoga River in Ohio became a symbol of this degradation when it caught fire in 1952 and 1969, causing national shock. The 1969 episode helped drive the passage of the Clean Water Act in 1972, a fundamental milestone for water pollution control in the United States and an inspiration for global environmental policies. Bayer, the German pharmaceutical company, launched heroin in 1898 as a remedy for coughs, bronchitis, and tuberculosis, while also presenting it as a supposedly less problematic substitute for morphine. Freely sold and prescribed to adults and children, it reflected a limited understanding of its effects. Decades later, the dependence caused by the substance was recognized, leading to restrictions and exposing the risks of self-medication and lack of regulation. The practice of blackface was popular between the 19th and 20th centuries as entertainment, with white actors painting their faces black to portray African Americans in caricatured ways. Present in theaters, fairs, and radio programs, it was seen as family-friendly and remained common on British television until the 1970s. This normalization perpetuated prejudice and negative stereotypes about communities of African descent. Racial segregation in the United States, institutionalized in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, imposed strict separation between white people and African Americans in public spaces, such as transportation stations, with divisions like colored waiting room and white. Supported by Jim Crow laws, it perpetuated discrimination, maintaining an unequal system that marginalized people of African descent and limited their access to basic rights, symbolizing structural racism until the Civil Rights Movement. Thoradia was a French cosmetic launched in the 1910s that contained thorium and radium, elements then considered beneficial for the skin. Sold in sophisticated pharmacies in Paris, it promised rejuvenation and therapeutic effects, reflecting both the fascination and limited knowledge of the time about radioactivity. Later, the effects of these components proved concerning, leading to gradual restrictions and marking a chapter in the history of cosmetics and public health. Pelvic X-rays in pregnant women were a common practice until the mid-20th century, used to evaluate the size and position of the fetus and to diagnose twins. A British study from 1956 revealed that children exposed to radiation in the womb had a higher risk of developing serious health problems. Even after these findings, replacement of the procedure only happened years later, reflecting the slow acceptance of radiation risks to the fetus and their impact on obstetric protocols of the time. The petoscope, a device used for radiological foot exams, gained attention in Brazil in the 1940s and 1950s when medical innovations began to connect commerce and public health. Installed in shoe stores, it allowed shoes to be evaluated according to the customer's anatomy, helping prevent orthopedic problems and improve comfort. This practice reflected technological advances aimed at conscious consumption and well-being, showing the connection between health and commerce for personalized solutions. The use of creams containing mercury chloride to lighten the skin, advertised in women's magazines and sold in stores, reflected racism and the search for acceptance through appearance. These substances caused serious health damage, such as tremors and kidney failure, but remained legal in several countries until the 1990s. Advertisements specifically targeting women of African descent reinforced exclusionary beauty standards and prejudice in the beauty industry. For much of the 20th century, manufacturers such as Camel used medical authority to promote cigarettes, running advertisements that claimed their products were milder and recommended by experts. Doctors were paid to endorse tobacco as a solution for tension and respiratory problems, influencing public opinion. This strategy changed in 1964 when the United States Surgeon General released the first report linking tobacco to serious health risks, marking a crucial advance against smoking. In the 1950s, American advertising campaigns promoted milder cigarettes and soft drinks such as 7-Up as part of pregnancy self-care, with doctors recommending these brands to ease pregnancy anxiety. At the time, the harms of smoking, such as premature birth and low birth weight, were not fully understood and were identified decades later. These advertisements show practices now considered risky and irresponsible for maternal and infant health. Mid-20th century advertising campaigns used iconic figures such as Santa Claus to promote adult products, including famous brands of the time, as in this image that links the Christmas figure to smoking. This strategy normalized tobacco use in an era when health risks were not widely publicized, contributing to the popularity of these products and creating lasting impacts on culture and public health. Joe Camel was the mascot of an American brand that, for decades in the 20th century, appeared in advertising campaigns and school materials, reflecting a time when certain adult products were socially accepted and widely promoted, including among young people. In Brazil, schools used these figures in activities, showing the global cultural and marketing influence of these brands before stricter restrictions emerged because of public health impacts. Before the 1990s, smoking on commercial flights in the United States was common, with smoking areas often separated only by symbolic curtains. Airlines provided free cigarettes on long trips and gave discounts to frequent passengers. Flight attendants exposed to smoke developed respiratory problems. In 1988, Congress restricted smoking on short domestic flights, and in 1990 extended the measure to all commercial flights, advancing public health. The image shows African American men chained and forced to work in agriculture in the southern United States during the first half of the 20th century. They faced degrading conditions and constant surveillance, exposing post-emancipation exploitation when freedom did not result in full social rights. This context reflects institutionalized racism and the coercive use of African American labor in systems similar to convict leasing, which maintained racial control and inequality after 1865. Decades after the end of slavery, schools in the southern United States spread a distorted narrative about the slaveholding past, portraying enslaved people as satisfied and hiding the brutality of the system. Textbooks and school maps presented the regime as benevolent, ignoring uprisings and resistance. This educational manipulation shaped generations until it was challenged during the Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s, which pushed for a revision of this historical memory. After Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, the United States government ordered the forced removal of thousands of Japanese Americans to inland centers under Executive Order 9066. These transfers occurred without trial based on suspicions of loyalty to Japan. Entire families, including children identified by tags, suffered a deep violation of civil rights, marking one of the most difficult chapters of American history during World War II. Until the first decades of the 20th century, public punishments in the United States and France attracted thousands of people, including families who turned the event into a festive occasion with picnics and souvenir sales, such as postcards. The last public execution in the United States took place in 1936 in Owensboro, Kentucky, with 20,000 spectators, while in France the guillotine was used publicly until 1939. These events mixed justice and entertainment into a social spectacle. The guillotine, a symbol of French revolutionary justice, was used between 1789 and 1799 to carry out extreme public sentences, aiming to make all people equal before the law. Although the photograph is from the 20th century, the image recalls the executions of the Reign of Terror, raising debates about human rights and state power. The method remained in use in France until 1977, leaving a dark legacy in European penal history. Delbert C. Anderson won a trophy in a family competition at an American eugenics state fair, an event from the 1930s to the 1950s that reflected the influence of eugenic theories in United States society. These competitions valued supposedly superior families based on genetic criteria linking social sciences with population control policies. They contributed to controversial measures such as forced sterilization, marking a troubling phase of American history. Catherine Switzer became a symbol of the fight for gender equality when she became the first woman to officially complete the Boston Marathon in 1967, challenging restrictions on women's participation in long-distance races. During the race, an official tried to remove her from the course, exposing the prejudice of the time. Her courage opened the way for women to gain space in world athletics, driving major social and sporting changes. Jean-Martin Charcot was a pioneer in the study of hysteria at La Salpêtrière Hospital in Paris in the late 19th century. His research presented hysteria as a neurological condition with intense emotional and physical manifestations, advancing the clinical method in neurology. His work influenced Freud and psychoanalysis, while also transforming medicine's approach to mental conditions by distinguishing neurological symptoms from psychological and social factors. In the early 20th century, in large cities in the United States, installing metal cages in windows was intended to expose babies to fresh air and sunlight to strengthen health and reduce respiratory problems. This method reflected difficult urban conditions with little green space and pollution and showed the medical concern of the time with child hygiene despite the dangers. The practice revealed the search for solutions to urban challenges and influenced public health policies. In the early 20th century, medicines containing morphine, opium, cocaine, and heroin were sold freely in American pharmacies, often in elixirs and syrups. Middle-class women were the main consumers of these calming elixirs, whose continued use, called the lady's habit, was rarely discussed. By 1914, about 300,000 Americans depended on these legal substances when the Harrison Narcotics Tax Act regulated the use of opiates and stimulants. The practice of exposing babies to cold air was common in some European and American cities in the first decades of the 20th century, based on the belief that icy air would strengthen the lungs and help reduce respiratory problems. It was part of public health movements that encouraged airy environments for children, contrasting with the less ventilated indoor spaces of the time amid high rates of contagious disease. Lewis Hine documented the reality of breaker boys, boys between 8 and 12 years old who worked in coal mines in the United States in the early 20th century. These children performed dangerous tasks, manually sorting coal in dark environments without proper protection, exposed to dust and unhealthy conditions. Child labor increased public awareness and accelerated the creation of laws banning the employment of minors in dangerous activities, transforming the social and labor landscape. Child boxing matches involving children between 6 and 12 years old, common in fairs, circuses, and bars in the United States and Europe in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, revealed serious social exploitation. Poor children were presented as natural talents to attract audiences and betting, while the sports press reinforced the practice without criticism. Over time, child labor protection laws banned these fights, showing the evolution of ideas about childhood and social rights. The Orphan Trains program, created in the mid-19th century in the United States, moved about 200,000 orphaned or abandoned children from cities to rural areas, offering new opportunities and support to local families. Started in 1854 by Charles Loring Brace, it was a response to the challenges of urban growth, but it became controversial because of the lack of follow-up and emotional impacts influencing child welfare policies. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, train stations in the United States were crucial points for the movement of families and children under institutional control. Minors were sent to the Midwest and South through internal settlement or adoption programs, carrying signs with names and ages to help place them in homes or on farms. This phenomenon reflected social challenges such as urban poverty and the expansion of rural labor, marking the social policies of the time. The 7-Up advertising campaign in Brazil in the 1950s and 1960s sought to win the market with appeals to freshness and purity, using slogans such as "good for babies" and "you cannot start too early to give good taste." The image of a baby holding a bottle showed the strategy of inserting the soda into family life as a family-appropriate product, influencing social perception and expanding consumption during the country's economic and cultural growth. In the early 20th century, photographs and postcards of American and European industrial cities highlighted dark columns of factory smoke as signs of progress and economic prosperity. Chambers of Commerce commissioned images of smoking chimneys to attract investors. Respiratory problems among children in working-class neighborhoods were called progress cough. Visible air pollution was positive marketing, and cities with clean air were seen as economically stagnant. On July 24, 1915, the SS Eastland rolled onto its side while still docked in the Chicago River with 2,500 Western Electric employees on board heading to a company picnic. The ship overturned in less than 16 feet of water, only yards from the dock. 848 people lost their lives, a number higher than the Titanic. Most were Czech immigrants. The captain was acquitted. The episode was nearly forgotten in American history. Until the Equal Credit Opportunity Act was passed in 1974, financial institutions in the United States denied credit cards and accounts to single women or required male authorization, even when women had their own income. This discrimination was reinforced by campaigns showing husbands as financial controllers. Divorced women often lost their credit history. The law guaranteed equal access to credit, promoting women's financial independence. Until the 1970s, women's participation in marathons was restricted by unfounded medical claims that the effort could cause reproductive harm, reflecting the prejudice of the time. The Boston Athletic Association kept the restriction until 1972, and the Olympics only included the women's marathon in 1984. Women who challenged the rules were removed or disqualified, showing resistance to female inclusion in athletics. Richard Loving and Mildred Loving were the couple at the center of the 1967 United States Supreme Court decision, Loving v. Virginia. The case challenged Virginia laws that banned marriage between people of different ethnic backgrounds, confronting the racism of the time. The historic victory declared anti-interracial marriage laws illegal, marking the civil rights struggle and guaranteeing constitutional protection for interracial marriage. In 1968, American sprinters Tommy Smith and John Carlos won gold and bronze in the 200 meters at the Mexico Olympics. On the podium, during the American anthem, they raised black-gloved fists in a silent 40-second protest. The Olympic Committee demanded the immediate removal of both men under threat of banning the entire American delegation. They returned home facing public rejection, threats, and boycotts for years. 50 years later, the gesture became a global symbol of anti-racist protest. George Constantinos, the wild man of Borneo, was one of the most enigmatic attractions in circuses and fairs during the 19th century, displaying a body covered in tattoos that made him appear like a mystical figure. Coming from a maritime background, he explored Western fascination with exotic cultures, mixing anthropological curiosity with popular entertainment. This phenomenon reflected the 19th century interest in cultural differences and influenced Western perceptions of peoples from Asia and Oceania. In the early 20th century, the use of iron and plaster devices to correct deformities in children represented advances in orthopedics and motor rehabilitation, reflecting concern for child health. Despite the discomfort, these structures kept patients in proper positions for long periods, helping improve conditions such as polio before modern physical therapy and more advanced surgical procedures. The construction of railroads in the United States during the 19th century was crucial to economic and territorial expansion, connecting distant regions and driving industrial development. Workers faced difficult terrain and constant risks, using simple tools to open routes. This effort transformed geography and accelerated market integration, allowing rapid transportation and contributing to modernization and urban growth. Carrie Buck became a symbol of a controversial United States Supreme Court decision in 1927 that authorized the forced sterilization of people considered mentally unfit. The decision legalized programs that sterilized more than 60,000 Americans without consent, mainly affecting vulnerable groups. Buck, who had a normal IQ, was institutionalized because she was poor and born outside marriage, exposing social discrimination. The Buck v. Bell case remains controversial in legal history. Karen Silkwood, a technician at a nuclear plant in Oklahoma, began documenting serious safety failures, unprotected plutonium, and falsified records. In November 1974, she discovered that her apartment had been suspiciously contaminated with plutonium. Days later, while driving to meet a New York Times reporter with documents, she lost her life in a car crash. The records disappeared. Police called it an accident, but the family's experts pointed to signs of a rear-end collision. Dr. James K. Kendall was a psychiatrist active in the 20th century, when practices aimed at converting homosexuality, such as electric stimuli paired with images, were accepted in some medical settings. These practices, based on outdated theories, sought to change same-sex attraction through aversion conditioning, reflecting the pathologizing of homosexuality. Although discredited today, they reveal the institutional prejudice and rights violations of that era. In the 19th century, the intense use of corsets shaped the female silhouette while affecting health. Victorian doctors recommended the accessory to support organs and ensure good posture, despite the risks. Used from childhood, it could alter ribs, compress organs, and impair breathing, causing common fainting episodes. In this way, the wasp waist became an ambiguous symbol of femininity and discomfort, confirmed by photographic records of the era. In Tampa, Florida, in 1983, a nightclub performer appeared in court before Judge David Demers to show that her piece of clothing met local dress rules. The case began after an encounter with undercover police officers and became known for the unusual way a public rule of the time was challenged in court. Dutch Boy became a symbol of the paint industry in the United States in the early 20th century through a child mascot that represented family trust in the brand. Despite its popularity, the company sold lead-based paints, a harmful substance that caused neurological damage, especially in children. The use of these paints was banned in 1978 after public health advances exposed their dangers. The story shows how older practices exposed people to risks before regulation. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, please use the Super Thanks tool below. Your contribution helps us keep bringing you amazing historical content. Thank you so much for your support, and see you in the next video.